Hi everybody, I'm recording this video today to talk about my personal experiences about teleportation and shapeshifting. These are two experiences that have come up recently and over the years in talking with people, and I feel it is wise to share just from my own experiences what I have gone through and what I've gone through with other people, what happens in these situations and when we experience these, and to acknowledge what's going on and it actually happens. First, I'll talk about teleportation because let me first describe and define, or actually just say what teleportation means to me. We can physically teleport ourselves from one location to the next, another location, simply by our intent, by deeply intending that to happen. I've spoken with a lot of people that have been driving and they are really in a rush to get somewhere, and their deepest intent is to get somewhere and by a certain time, and they find that based upon the mileage and the time and the distance, I've heard multiple people tell me this, that they made it there like 20 minutes faster. That is teleportation. It can happen more frequently to other people than most. What started happening to me, it was more spontaneous and more unsolicited. I wasn't attempting to teleport. I remember the first time it happened, it was with a friend, so I knew when it happened because he pointed it out to me when it actually did. I was walking in a hallway and I was carrying a 5-gallon jug of water, full jug of water, so I wasn't in a rush going somewhere. And I was passing by an office hallway, and I stopped and I noticed there was a continuity gap in my awareness when I was walking. That, you know, when you're walking, there's a sequence. You're supposed to pass by something, and you notice as you're passing by. I passed by this certain part of the hallway, and I realized something was wrong. There was a continuity error in my awareness, in my mind, and I was thinking to myself, like, what just happened? And I asked my friend, I'm like, did you just feel that? And he goes, yeah, we just teleported about 7 feet. It took me a minute to register what he told me, and by that time it made sense, because the continuity error of my mind trying to fill in the gap of me walking didn't make sense. And so the more I spent time with my friend, it started happening. It was happening to him spontaneously, so the fact that I was around him, it just spontaneously started happening, and we would be driving in his car and then it would just happen. We would be one location, then to be in the next, and he would ask me, do you remember driving over this certain location? And I would stop there and think about it for a second. I'm like, no, we didn't. And I would go, cool, you know, without even thinking about it, because it just was, you know, I wasn't attempting it to happen, it just started happening spontaneously. A few times after that, I started noticing it started happening to me on my own when I was driving. And I would notice it because I'd be on one end of the freeway attempting to go 3 lanes to the right, and then the next thing in my awareness, I'd notice I'd be in that lane, and I'd stop and think about it for a second. I'm like, I really didn't shift over lanes. So what I'm talking about is there's these latent abilities that we all have. And the reason I'm talking about this is not to say like, oh wow, this is so cool, how to activate your ability to teleport. My intent has been to pursue my spiritual awakening, to keep shifting up my energies. And the more I made it my intention to keep focusing and pursuing on my spiritual awakening, a lot of these spiritual abilities, and some traditions are called siddhis, S-I-D-D-H-I-S, siddhis, they will just activate spontaneously. And I encourage everybody watching this video not to seek out these powers, these abilities, because there's no real spiritual development in these abilities. They will happen as a result of you pursuing your spiritual practice. And that's the only time I would actually recommend. If they happen, that's cool, but that doesn't mean you're a spiritually awakened or enlightened person by having these experiences. if you can manifest stuff out of the air, that doesn't mean you're an enlightened being. You know, I'm not going to go into the definition what it means to be awakened or enlightened, but I know for a fact that from my personal experiences, just because you have these abilities doesn't mean that you're any more special than somebody else. You're just, you know, remembering some stuff, and it's happening spontaneously. A lot of people, it's happening to many people, they're just not acknowledging it. And it's not about who's better or hierarchy of these things. At any given different time, somebody's going to have different abilities activated and awakened. And so I'll go back to the most extended teleportation experience I had was I was driving one home evening from Joshua Tree. My friend was in the car with me, and I told her, I said, listen, you know, we might jump a little, we might teleport. It's been happening a lot this weekend. So, and she registered what I said, but she didn't answer because it just, you know, it wasn't in her experience to know what I was talking about. I was looking for a gas station. I was driving a natural gas vehicle, so you're required to fill up a natural gas filling station. And I was looking up in the navigation, and I remember the last city we were in, and I looked at the city we were in, and there was a continuity, an error, a gap again. And I told my friend, I said, I feel like we might have jumped. And she goes, oh my God, you're right, we did. We skipped the whole town of Riverside. And I couldn't tell you exactly from the distance where it happened, but there was like at least, you know, a 10, 15 mile jump. I dropped her off in San Pedro, and it was 2 a.m. in the morning, and she goes, you're more than welcome to stay at our house. And I was like, no thank you. And this was in Los Angeles. I'm talking about the Los Angeles freeways. So if you know something about the Los Angeles freeways, they're, you know, all over the place. And I told my friend, I was like, no thanks, I'm just gonna go home and drive home. I don't feel like, you know, sleeping at somebody else's house right now. It was 2 a.m. and if you're familiar with the 405 North and South Freeway, there's construction on it. It's been up for like ongoing for years. At 2 a.m. in the morning, I made it to the 405 Sunset, right where the Getty is. And then I started seeing the cones, and it started slowing down, and I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna be stuck in traffic. And so I proceeded to eat some nuts, and I just, you know, swing my head back just to eat these nuts, these sunflower seeds I had. And the next thing I'm doing is I'm looking around my surroundings, my location. And if you're familiar with the 405 freeway, there's no houses on the 405. There's on where the Sunset, the Getty is. It's just trees. It's just, you're going through a mountain. The next thing I remember seeing, I was looking at houses, and it was a residential area in the freeway, and I said to myself, like, where am I? So I put the navigation on my car to locate where I am, and I was 8 miles away from home. So previously I was on Sunset, I was going to the 118 freeway exiting Reseda. That was at least 20 miles away from my distance. From where I teleported on Sunset from the 405 to where I was on the 405 freeway, where it was meeting the 210 freeway and exiting off Rinaldi. And like I said, if you know where the freeway is, that was exactly 20 miles. I had passed my house by 8 miles. You know, I made a joke. I said, well, at least if I'm going to teleport, like, not to pass my house. So I had to get off the freeway, I had to get back on, and I had to drive home. And it took me a second to register what had happened. It took me a moment to really sink in what had happened. And I felt like calling somebody, because I said, whoa, this just really happened, and I really require talking with somebody about what just happened. It was 2 a.m. when I made it. Like, it was late in the evening, in the early morning, and nobody was up. So I posted on this private blog about it, and I got a response from my friend about it. It just, like I said, I didn't ever try to have these abilities happen, and I made an intention. I said, okay, let's not teleport for a while. I'm just really not interested in jumping 20 miles instantly and then having me end up somewhere where I have to go drive out of my, you know, it did make my trip faster going home, and I skipped the construction, which was really cool. Yet at the same time, it made me a little uncomfortable. I said, yeah, I mean, I'm not questioning the safety about it. I just was like, it was a little bit much at the time, and I may or may not be able to handle it if it happens again to that degree. I just haven't really been paying attention to it. I said, let's just calm this aspect of the city down for a while. I don't really need to be jumping everywhere right now. So, like I said, this is something I'm sharing from my own personal experiences, from people that have had it. Multiple people have had these experiences. It's a community of people that I've spoken with that know what I'm talking about, that have had this happen to them. So, I mean, if this is too much for you to register, that's fine. I'm telling you what just personally happened to me. I don't need to glow or, pray, make seem like this is really cool. I said in the beginning or the middle of the video that this is just what happens when you pursue your spiritual awakening. One of the things that may happen along your journey, and everybody's journey is completely different. So in correspondence to what I said with the spiritual awakening, the shape-shifting is once again another city, another ability. Some of us have it just more innately within us that we can go anywhere and be around people we haven't met, and they will start, coming and gravitating towards you and say, wow, you look like somebody I really know. Like, you look like my brother, you look like somebody I knew in high school, you look like my ex-boyfriend. These people would come up and tell me these things, and it stopped becoming a coincidence because it happened so frequently everywhere I went. And I realized the more I opened my heart, the more I was grounded in myself, the more I was focusing on myself and opening up my light, people would come and be gravitated towards me. And I realized that whenever somebody was in my energy field, I would start looking like a person that they would feel familiar with, so they can be more open to me. They would just open up. And if you're around somebody and they remind you of somebody, and they remind you of somebody that you love or care about, that person's going to be more open to you. And so, as an ability that I cultivated many lifetimes, because that's what I was. I haven't ever consciously attempted to shapeshift. It just happens. Another aspect of shapeshifting is that whenever I talk about a certain energy, a certain light being, a certain presence, a certain being, I would bring their energy through. And I've had multiple people tell me, when I was speaking of Mother Mary, somebody goes like, oh my God, I just saw you as Mother Mary. And I was like, okay, I felt her energy coming through. A lot of people would come up to me, and every time they would say, like, you look like Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really close with him. I'd work with his energy, and I'd feel his energy channeling through. And people, once again, working with Archangel Michael, people will tell me, like, you look like Archangel Michael right now. You just face just shifted. I was like, yeah, Michael's really close. And people, like, I'm going to go down the list of all the people I've shapeshifted, not all of them, but in a sequence of anytime I've ever brought this person's energy, that being's energy, Babaji, I talk about Babaji, people would say, you look like Babaji, or Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. Again, anytime I've ever brought up a person or place or energy, that energy I'd flow through, and people would feel it coming out and through me. Even animals. One of my friends, she goes, oh my God, your face just turned into a wolf. And I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, the wolf animal spirit guide is really close with me. It's close to my heart. People just call me wolf. And these are energies, these are subtle energies people feel. When they start talking about you and they start saying different things, whether they're consciously aware or not, they're picking up on these energies. They're picking up on your essence. They're picking up on who you really are. And the more people pick up on these subtle energies, they're, like I said, whether they're consciously aware of it or not, they're picking up on these. Some people can just see it more than others, and some people just may completely brush it off and say like, oh, that didn't happen, that wasn't anything. When in actuality it is. And the point is becoming aware when these things happen and actually acknowledging them, and not putting them off as like, oh, that was just an experience. These things are actually happening, and the reason I'm sharing these videos about the teleportation, about the shape-shifting, is to be an acknowledgement, is to bring a more of a self-awareness to you and what you're experiencing when these things happen, and creating a safe container environment for people to talk about and have a dialogue with this without being labeled or called crazy, or being cast out or shunned in society, or put on or being heavily medicated. I haven't ever taken any medication. We're all going through this together, and the more we make each other feel comfortable and safe and open up and be real and have a dialogue about this and speak the truth, then this gives other people the opportunity to do what they're actually doing, be who they really are, and be their authentic selves. And that's my intention for recording these videos, for people to feel like they can be really themselves, be who they really are, and open up to the truth of who they are. And remember, because essentially when one person's talking about their personal experience, you may actually remember and activate your own ability for this to happen to you. And I don't have any more abilities and more gifted than you are. You're an amazing spiritual being as well. And the point of these videos is to help you remember who you really are, and so you can shine and bring in your light, your love, connecting to source and all the light beings in the multiverse, connecting with your higher selves. And the more you do this and open up to that truth, your own light, this will, you'll start bringing in more of your light, that you're less dependent on other people for energy, that you can stand in your own light, your own power. And my intention is for people to be empowered, to step into who they really are. So if this video helped you in any way, or you had fun, or just enjoyed the story, please like it, share it, whatever that you can do to spread the word about this, and just keep watching my videos. I will continue recording more. My name is Garo Dorian. You can follow me on Facebook, and I look forward to connecting with you soon in person.